Ho, 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 ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special holiday edition of Let's Dev. Now, not only did I want to celebrate how well Let's Dev has done on the channel, but I also wanted to do something special for the holiday season as a thanks to all you lovely viewers for supporting the content. The result was this special Let's Dev project, which before I go any further, would like to introduce properly. Packed by Christmas is a game inspired by the asymmetrical multiplayer game Dead by Daylight and features an idea I've been sitting on for a couple of years. A dark take on the concept of how Santa Claus is able to provide so many toys every single year. Now, there were some rules to this project. Inspired by game jams, the main rule was that this game had to be done in an accumulated 24 hours. This included the completion of code, art, and music. All the content had to be done from scratch, and of course the game had to be built while recording. With those rules in place, I got to work, and the first thing I had to do was build a monster. But before our villain could be built, we needed a protagonist. So I got to work on the basics for player controls, including a run function. The run function would allow players to move much quicker, but as a result would leave behind footprints in the snow for Santa to follow. Now, one of the most difficult aspects of this game was building an enemy with a great deal of AI, because before this, the most I'd done with AI revolved around boss fights with phases, and none of it ever required pathfinding or really thoughtful movement in general. So to start, I gave the monster some code to pick a random spot and just run to it. This helped with two things. The first would help establish how to handle Santa's direction for visual assets in the future, but also helped define an invisible vision cone that helped give our monster a gratuitous line of sight. Now with Santa set up, and more importantly his vision established, I added actions to follow footsteps and chase the player if they so happen to be in the viewing distance of our villain. And to help keep track of these different states, I added some temporary coloring. I also didn't have a lot of experience before this working with top-down games, so understanding how 360 degrees was handled in GameMaker was a challenge. And thus a lot of time was spent converting Santa's four-way directions into quadrants of a 360-degree radius. It also doesn't help that I'm generally pretty bad at math. The entire process took longer than I'd like to admit, but eventually I got it down, and it was time to focus on getting Santa working right. A great deal of trial and error, constantly editing lines of code and retesting occurred. Santa just refused to work properly. I hit my first wall, and no matter what I did, Santa continued to act out despite the code being correct. But after some time, I realized that I'd forgotten the most important part of using GameMaker's switch statement: breaks. Yep, adding breaks to the end of each case solved Santa's defiant behavior, and I was finally able to move on. And now that Santa was working properly, it was time to introduce the boxes. These boxes would work similar to the hooks in Dead by Daylight. Once a player gets placed on a box, they had to struggle out of the box to continue surviving. Much like Santa, the player's states are controlled by switch statements, allowing for an idle state, a run state, a caught state, and a box state. Anytime the player is caught, an invisible struggle meter is created, and individual key presses contribute to depleting that meter. Once depleted, a player is free. In the caught state, wiggling free means players can run away while Santa remains stunned for just a second. Now moving back to Santa's AI, when players are caught, I added a simple check to Santa to find the nearest box. And once Santa has done his job of boxing the player, he should walk away. You know, just to be fair. For a while I toyed with the idea of having walls in the area, but I found it broke up the tension way too easily. Speaking of tension, I decided to take a break from the AI to build the lighting mechanic. Undoubtedly inspired by Nuclear Throne, I wanted a radio-based lighting mechanic that exists for a couple of reasons. Not only is the unknown often terrifying, but the radius of light would act as a way for the players to understand Santa's field of view. This would be refined later on. Now back to the walls, a great deal of time was wasted trying to make them work in a way that wouldn't break the tension, but in the end I opted for something more dastardly: traps. And that's where our story ends for now. Coming up next time, we refine what we've already done and things get even crazier. So be sure to tune in next week for the next episode of the Let's Dev Holiday Special. But until then, as always, if you enjoy what you saw and want to see more, be sure to leave a like. If you have any ideas of how this show could be improved as a viewing experience, or you just have a thought you'd like to share, be sure to leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Let's see if this works. No. What? You know what? Maybe I was right all along. Hold on. Fun fact. You know, when you're writing code, you might want to check your spelling. I really should have just copy pasted to you know, make things quicker on